Emergency on extortion crimes.
It requires urgent action from this Parliament.
Plus,
this is actually focused on much more serious matters, which is the way in which Miles died.
the public hearing into the police-involved death of Miles Gray more than a decade ago is delayed by an obscenity caught on a microphone. And
today is a historic day for the Tahltan Nation.
The province touts a new mining deal with the First Nation, while the opposition casts doubt on the legislation used.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. Surrey Council says it is time Ottawa invoked special powers to respond to the city's extortion problem. As Saurabh Sandhu reports, local leaders are calling for a federal state of emergency.
I think it's crucial that we do this now.
Surrey City Council passes a unanimous motion Monday evening calling on Ottawa to declare extortion crimes in the city a federal emergency. The motion directs the Mayor's office to formally request the Government of Canada to declare a federal state of emergency or invoke equivalent extraordinary federal measures to address the organized extortion crisis.
This is dire time for the city of Surrey.
The city is asking for the appointment of a national commissioner, the deployment of more federal RCMP organized crime units, and the removal from the country of non-citizens who are charged or convicted of extortion-related crimes. The Surrey Police Service says in 2025 there were 132 extortion attempts, 49 involving shots fired at homes and businesses. This year alone, adding another 36 cases of extortion, 8 involving gunfire.
Many people in Surrey believe we need to have the criminal code looked at and addressed. People believe that people are getting off far too light.
Premier David Eby says he supports the call for federal help.
What Surrey need, what the people south of Fraser need is action. And if a declaration helps get us closer to that, then I'm all for it.
The issue of extortions also echoed in the House of Commons Tuesday.
This is happening in our neighborhoods and on our streets, and it requires urgent action from this Parliament.
This Punjabi radio talk show host says he has heard from countless frustrated listeners.
They are expecting minimum that there should be a coordination between different levels of the government and the elected individuals actually.
Monday's motion also asks Ottawa to change the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act to prevent claims from refugees involved in extortion investigations. It also asks for quarterly reports on the severity of extortion activities and investigational progress. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Surrey.
Surrey Police, meanwhile, says 2 men have been charged with gun offenses after shots were allegedly fired early Monday morning.
Both are foreign nationals, and Surrey Police Service has advised Canada Border Services Agency.
The force says just before 4 a.m. on Monday, officers near 129th Street and 84th Avenue heard what they thought was a gunshot. They stopped a car, arrested 2 men, and found a loaded handgun inside. Police say 20-year-old Harshdeep Singh is charged with dangerous operation of a motor vehicle and being in a car while knowing a gun is there. 21-year-old Hanspreet Singh has been charged with the same gun offense. They're to stay in jail until the end of the month. The public hearing into the police-involved death of Miles Gray more than 10 years ago is facing a multi-week delay. It's been adjourned until February 24th while a new public counsel is appointed. The previous public counsel hearing counsel, which is similar to a prosecutor, resigned following a hot mic obscenity incident last week. On Monday, that counsel announced he would resign from the proceeding, and the BC Law Society is looking into the offensive comment. The lawyer for the Gray family says the delays are not ideal.
This isn't really a public hearing to bring to light the circumstances of some inadvertent comment on an open microphone. This is actually focused on much more serious matters, which is the way in which Miles died.
Miles Gray died after a violent altercation with 7 Vancouver police officers in August 2015. They're accused of abusing their authority by recklessly or intentionally using unnecessary force in his death. All 7 deny the allegations, and the BC Police Complaint Commissioner has now appointed a new public hearing counsel. The BC government and the Tahltan Nation say an agreement over a major mining project shows how the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act is working. But as Katie DeRosa reports, that deal comes as the province's approach to negotiations with First Nations is under close scrutiny.
Today is a historic day for the Tahltan Nation.
It's the first time the BC government has partnered with a First Nation to make a regulatory decision on the future of a major resource project. The Eskay Creek gold and silver mine in northwestern BC has been given the green light, a joint decision between the province and the Tahltan Nation under Section 7 of the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act, or DRIPA. BC's Attorney General says it shows how projects on First Nations territory can move faster thanks to DRIPA when deals are made through cooperation, not litigation. BC's official opposition rejects that argument and is calling for DRIPA to be repealed.
So the Premier on one hand is saying that DRIPA needs to be amended and fixed, and on the other hand, he's saying, no, DRIPA is actually the way for success on all these projects. Well, which one is it?
DRIPA and how the government negotiates with First Nations has become a political football following last year's BC Supreme Court decision to grant the Cowichan Nation Aboriginal title over more than 300 hectares of land in South Richmond. It's led to worries about what might happen to private property in the area. Montrose Properties, which owns commercial land in the area, has asked the courts to reopen the case and let it be a party to the lawsuit. Premier David Eby and Nikki Sharma have promised amendments to DRIPA to limit the role of the courts.
They won't be about stepping back from DRIPA. They will be about unlocking what's the potential of DRIPA without leading us back to the courts.
That worries the BC branch of the Canadian Bar Association.
Any proposal to restrict court oversight is deeply alarming.
The Premier tells CBC News that DRIPA was meant to prevent the government and First Nations from fighting in court in the first place. The head of the Tahltan central government says the Eskay Creek mine agreement is proof that DRIPA is working and should be strengthened, not weakened. Katie DeRosa, CBC News, Victoria.
The former president of Save On Foods has now joined the race for the BC Conservative leadership.
I am so proud to announce my candidacy for the leadership of the Conservative Party of British Columbia.
Last month, Darrell Jones confirmed he was thinking about a run to replace John Rustad. So far, 6 candidates have declared they want the job. The party will announce the winner after its leadership election at the end of May. The BC government says it is committed to finding supports for businesses affected by the 4-month closure of a section of East Broadway for the expansion of SkyTrain. But it's not making any promises.
It is a priority to help the businesses, and that's what we're trying to do. But compensation is not something that any government has done on any project in this province. It opens up a real Pandora's box, and they know that.
Farnworth spoke after a meeting with business owners. They say they're cautiously optimistic after chatting with the minister and hope the government will learn lessons so small business losses are factored into infrastructure projects in the future. Buses and local traffic are being detoured along East 8th Avenue. The project extending SkyTrain to Arbutus Street is already in its 6th year and 2 years behind schedule. Well, you may have seen them on your commute around the Lower Mainland. Greenhouses in Delta have been the target of public complaints this winter over how much light they throw into the sky. But greenhouse light pollution is not regulated. And as Troy Charles explains, that will not change anytime soon.
The pink and yellow night sky over Delta can be seen across the Lower Mainland. The colorful lights coming from just a few greenhouses. For some groups, the glow needs to go.
80% of all bird migration is at night.
The greenhouses in question are not far from the Rifle Migratory Bird Sanctuary. McIntosh says the light pollution can disrupt navigation for birds.
It should be absolutely required that they have the new technologies of the screens that will roll across the ceiling to block the light at night.
Stargazers say the greenhouses have spoiled the once dark Boundary Bay sky.
It's darker skies at Spanish Banks than it is at Boundary Bay now. And it used to be the other way around.
And the city of Delta says they've been receiving messages from local pilots.
some pilots are seeing a glare.
In BC, there are no regulations regarding how much light a greenhouse can emit. Instead, the province and industry asks growers to comply with good neighbor farming practices. The greenhouse light pollution issue is not new to Delta. Mayor Harvey says in 2005, the city explored a bylaw to regulate greenhouse lighting impacts. Harvey says it did not receive the required provincial support.
Local government does not have the ability to require light abatement.
In Canada, there is precedent for regulation. In 2022, Leamington, Ontario City Council passed a bylaw to restrict greenhouse light pollution. Back in BC, the Minister of Agriculture recently got a tour of Windset farms in Delta.
We do baby cucumbers here as well.
Windset's owners say the pink lights are a combination of red and blue LEDs, which optimize photosynthesis in plants. They claim their new greenhouses have state-of-the-art light abatement with 2 curtains, 1 thermal and 1 blackout. But it comes at a cost.
I think between the 2 greenhouses, it's probably around $10 million.
When asked, the ministry would not commit to any provincial greenhouse light abatement regulations.
The light pollution is one thing that I know is can be alarming to some people, but if you remind yourselves that there's a lot of cucumbers under that light and a lot of tomatoes that are hitting the shelves.
Due to the influx of complaints, the BC Greenhouse Growers Association says they will bring a group of farmers together to discuss where improvements can be made.
If you do have a full light abatement system, it tends to complicate the growing a little bit as well too, because it creates a warmer condition in the greenhouse and it's a little bit more difficult to let out the humidity and the heat.
Until changes come from within the industry, Delta's Pink Sky at Night is just the greenhouse lights. Troy Charles, CBC News, Vancouver.
Firefighters in Burnaby have been battling a blaze north of Burnaby Lake.
The fire right now is burning inside a storage area that stores like heavy-duty building materials such as styrofoam insulation, and it's inside the Dryco facility.
He says a stretch of Winston Street is closed and is expected to be shut down overnight. Firefighters say no one has been injured. It's still not clear what sparked the blaze. Darius Madavi is here with a first look at the BC weather forecast. Heat? Are we talking about rising temperatures?
Yeah, I did just say heat, but I meant warmth.
Warmth.
Is
Okay,
more like,
probably better for winter, yes.
Yes, yeah. Rising temperatures across the south coast and much of BC. And along with those rising temperatures also comes a fair amount of precipitation, starting as snow in the local mountains, but by Thursday turning into rain. We get a bit of a break early tomorrow morning for most parts of Metro Vancouver, but more heavy rain does continue throughout the day tomorrow and across much of the south coast. Now, that does mean that avalanche danger is going to continue to climb over the next several days. As you can see, we're already seeing elevated danger here on the south coast. That's only going to continue to be a problem across BC, Dan, over the next several days as more and more yellow and orange takes over this map.
Okay, Darius, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Well, you could pile it on top of an already dismal season for the Vancouver Canucks. Goalie Thatcher Demko is now out for the rest of the year. Canucks general manager Patrick Alvin says Demko will require hip surgery next week. He says the injury that required surgery is not related to one that kept him from playing part of last season. Demko's loss is yet another body shot for the Canucks, whose season has been full of them. A writer with Canucks Army says the team hit rock bottom way before Demko got hurt.
I would say the Canucks already hit rock bottom when they decided to trade Quinn Hughes. And I think everything else from this point has been, it's been tough, but in some ways I don't think there was any more, there was no more rock bottom to find.
Still, Irvine believes the Canucks fan base will continue to support the team. He says younger fans may take advantage of more affordable tickets, if they become that, to see the games. Coming up, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security is in talks to buy a Virginia property owned by BC billionaire Jim Pattison. Stick around. One of Canada's richest people is being criticized for a potential business deal with ICE. BC billionaire Jim Pattison appears to be on the verge of selling an American property to that federal agency. Yasmin Khanea shows us the outrage that has sparked.
This giant Virginia warehouse owned by Canadian billionaire Jim Pattison could become an immigration and customs enforcement facility. In a letter to county officials, the Department of Homeland Security says it wants to buy the property in support of ICE operations, adding it may build holding and processing spaces and a guard shack.
Folks don't want to live next to a pseudo prison of sorts.
Pattison, one of Canada's richest people, owns dozens of businesses, from car dealerships to grocery chain Save On Foods. His company's real estate division bought the Virginia site in 2022 for about $7.6 million US. But now the county estimates its value could jump to roughly $50 million after improvements.
I think it's the kind of thing that companies need to think through pretty carefully.
Other Canadian companies have been criticized for doing business with ICE, including Ontario armored vehicle manufacturer Rochelle and BC tech firm Hootsuite, which according to the Globe and Mail is offering social media management services to the agency. It's all legal, but amid Donald Trump's immigration crackdown could tank public opinion, say ethics experts.
If I were a CEO, I wouldn't want my name or my company's name, my brand associated with what's going on in the States right now.
The leader of the BC Green Party now calling for a boycott of Pattison businesses.
I think as Canadians, we need to be crystal clear about who is driving, who is contributing to the crises we're facing, and how we can step up and take real actions.
BC's Attorney General is also urging Canadian companies to act carefully.
To make decisions that would not lead to some of the outcomes that we're seeing unfold in the States.
Jim Pattison Developments did not respond to requests for comment. Local county officials in Virginia plan to hold a meeting Wednesday to discuss the potential deal. Yasmin Khanea, CBC News, Vancouver.
Jim Pattison Group has now released a statement saying in part, quote, "We understand the conversation around immigration policy and enforcement is particularly heated and has become much more so over the past few weeks. We respect that this issue is deeply important to many people." Tony Waterman, meanwhile, has more on a tone shift from the U.S. president after a second deadly shooting by ICE officers in Minnesota.
The president has really been peppered with reporter questions all day about Alex Pretty. That is the veteran affairs nurse that was killed by Border Patrol officers working with ICE agents this past weekend. The president declined to call Pretty an assassin, which is contrary to what some of his own cabinet members have claimed. But the president did appear to cast at least a little bit of blame for the shooting on Pretty himself. Pretty was legally carrying that gun when he was disarmed and then shot by border agents on Saturday. And the outrage, not just over Pretty's killing, but 2 U.S. citizens now killed at the hands of federal agents since the start of the month. This outrage has really prompted a major reshuffle of command on the ground. The controversial Border Patrol commander, Gregory Bovino, has now left. He has essentially been demoted and is set to retire, while the White House border czar, Tom Homan, has arrived in Minnesota, and he's going to be overseeing enforcement operations. Homan is really seen as a more polished and less combative person than Bovino, and he is better at managing relationships with stakeholders. He immediately met with Governor Tim Walz, both of them agreeing to continue these discussions around reducing the number of federal forces in the state. Homan is going to report directly to the president instead of to the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, who has really become a very controversial figure in the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration, and calls have been mounting from both Democrats and Republicans for her to either be fired or to resign. But President Trump making it clear on Tuesday that he is standing by her, saying that he is not going to ask her to step down and that he thinks she is doing a good job. Tony Waterman for CBC News, Washington.
A windy and stormy day up on Hanson Island. Darius has your BC-wide weather forecast coming up. With dampened demand for real estate in Metro Vancouver and some home prices falling, there is another possible repercussion of a slowing market: foreclosures. Back in 2008, the last time we saw a serious slump, foreclosures surged. This time round, there's a suggestion we may be seeing that thing again. Joining us is Dwayne Giesbrecht. He's a realtor based out of Coquitlam, and he deals with foreclosures. Dwayne, first off, what are you seeing when it comes to the number of foreclosures and the pace of them?
Over the last 4 years, the pace of them, it has increased. It's not to epidemic proportions where it was in the States during the 2008 crisis. Right now, we're seeing about 0.8% last year, which were court-ordered sales, and that includes detached houses as well as attached, compared to 4 years ago where it was at 0.25%. So I have been talking to some of the lawyers and some of the lenders as well, and they are seeing that it is actually on the rise. They are getting a little bit busier with the foreclosures.
And how many are you dealing with personally right now?
Right now, I've got 4 on the market. I've got one with an offer on it, and the other ones are getting activity.
For those of us who may not understand the whole process, walk us through a foreclosure. What is it? How does it work?
Sure. With the foreclosure, the way it starts with people defaulting on their mortgage. Now, the lenders, when you buy a property, you don't necessarily think in the back of your mind you're getting it foreclosed on, and the banks don't want to foreclose on you either. So there is a demand period where they call the mortgage and say that the mortgage is up, you've defaulted on some payments. They try to put together a plan and work with the borrower as much as they can. If they can't come to terms, or if there's just so far underwater, then it gets to a redemption period. So it's they go to the courts, petition the courts, get a redemption period where it's about 6 months where the people can try to sell the property or make good on their mortgage. They can, if they are able to come up with funds without selling their property, they can at that time make good on their mortgage and pay that off. But after that redemption period, then it goes into the foreclosure proceedings where a realtor gets called and they put it on the market to sell.
Now, that comes with all sorts of costs and implications, and obviously unsettling and difficult for those who may be facing foreclosure. For someone who is looking to buy a property, is a foreclosure a good deal?
Not necessarily a good deal. It's indicative of the market. If it's a slower market, you may have other people that are not going into foreclosure, but they're willing to let their house go a little bit lower just to be able to compete with other listings. With a foreclosure, there are some risks involved for the buyer because the bank takes no representation on the property. It's as is, where is. So if there's any damage to the property, that's taken on by the buyer. The bank has no representation. They don't even warranty, or they don't even include the appliances in the foreclosure. If you have something where the person has moved out and it's a vacant property, obviously there's less risk. If there's someone still residing in the property, there is risk of damage from that person when they move. So it is really a buyer beware kind of situation. The other part of the process is if an offer gets accepted in court, or it gets accepted, it'll go to the court for the court to approve it. Now, the courts will look at the marketing program of the realtor just to make sure it's properly marketed on the MLS system, and they'll also take a look at what the appraised value is. So the judge at that time, if they came in with an offer that was really, really lower than expectation from the appraiser, and the marketing report showed that it just happened right away, there's a good likelihood that the judge would just not accept it in court. So it has to have that test, if you will. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, if there's any shortfall, the person that's getting foreclosed on is still responsible for that shortfall. So the judge, their whole goal is to make sure that the seller or the owner of the property is looked after and that no one's being taken advantage of.
Dwayne Giesbrecht, realtor, we really appreciate your time and walking us through what sounds like a rather challenging thing. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Survivors, politicians, and others observed International Holocaust Remembrance Day today, attending events around the world. Several dignitaries gave speeches in Ottawa, including the Prime Minister.
You have lived through the most horrific chapter of human history. Yet, again and again, you have chosen to bring those darkest memories to light, so that what happened will not fade into silence, so that what happened will never happen again.
Carney also notes the Canadian government was among those complicit in the Holocaust because of its silence, and he urges Canadians to remember the consequences of ignorance and hatred. Opposition leader Pierre Poilievre also spoke, denouncing the recent rise in anti-Semitism. Now, that rise in many parts of the world has many concern about it spreading in schools. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson looks at what Canada's biggest school board is doing to address anti-Semitism.
At the headquarters of the Toronto District School Board, the biggest school board in the country, a bunch of grade 6 students got a very special opportunity on the International Holocaust Remembrance Day. They got a chance to meet the author of the book To Hope and Back, about the journey of St. Louis, a ship carrying European Jews that was turned away from a number of countries, including Canada. They also got a chance to meet the daughter and granddaughter of a woman who was on that ship. They got to see some of her personal belongings, all of this in hopes of forging a personal connection.
I really think it's an important way for kids to connect to history and to understand the message, which is, you know, you can't say it's not my problem. You can't say none is too many, which is what Canada said at the time.
I don't know how to describe it, but you're like, you kind of understand it more, and it feels a lot more like it actually happened.
A lack of awareness about what happened in the Holocaust was already a growing problem in Canada, especially among young people. But now that problem is compounded by rising anti-Semitism. Just earlier this month, a 14-year-old Toronto area boy was charged with disseminating anti-Semitic materials. A study commissioned by the federal government last summer about anti-Semitism in Ontario schools had some startling revelations. About 40% of respondents, that's Jewish students and their parents, said that they've been subjected to Holocaust denial, Nazi salutes, and statements that Holocaust was exaggerated or should have happened. These are all reasons why this teacher says it's so important for her students to attend events like this one.
I think one thing over my tenure of teaching, we're getting further and further away from these events, and yet they're closer and closer and closer to what's happening in the world.
All in hope that kids can develop an emotional connection to the Holocaust that can be a powerful antidote to anti-Semitic rhetoric online or in real life. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
The fallout from Mark Carney's provocative speech at the World Economic Forum continues. Yesterday, a top Trump aide suggested the Prime Minister walked back his remarks in a phone call with the President. Carney says not true, but as Ashley Burke explains, the Conservative opposition is jumping on that apparent disagreement.
The Prime Minister offering his side of the story, saying he stands by his speech in Davos no matter what the Trump administration says.
But to be absolutely clear, and I said this to the President, I meant what I said in Davos.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent went on Fox News last night saying Mark Carney recanted.
I was in the Oval with the President today. He spoke to Prime Minister Carney, who was very aggressively walking back some of the unfortunate remarks he made at Davos.
In Davos, Carney used his speech to call on middle powers to unite against big ones, using economic might to coerce.
Great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons, tariffs as leverage.
Trump fired back in his own address.
Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements.
Now the Prime Minister is facing questions about what he actually said to Trump yesterday about that speech.
So you didn't walk back your comments? No.
Carney says he told Trump Canada was the first country to recognize the new direction of his trade policy and is responding positively to his moves.
I explained to him what we're doing, 12 new deals on 4 continents in 6 months. He was impressed. and what we intend to do going forward.
The Prime Minister needs to be a lot more forthright and forthcoming with what is going on.
The Conservatives' foreign affairs critic says he doesn't know who to believe, but it's been standard protocol for past governments to release readouts of calls between world leaders, and that didn't happen in this case.
We want to see a formal statement coming from the Prime Minister in the form of a readout to clarify the conversation that took place between the Prime Minister and the President.
Canadians first learned about this call on Fox News. Carney has long said that he's in constant communication with Trump, including over text message, and that's why his government is not releasing statements after every time they interact. But the opposition says those readouts after their calls should be happening. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Israel's top court is hearing a case to allow foreign journalists back into the Gaza Strip. The Israeli government banned media access following the Hamas attacks of October 7, 2023. An information void filled by local reporters with tragic results. More than 220 Palestinian journalists have died since the war began, including last week. More now from Sasha Petrusik.
Gaza's been a very dangerous place for journalists for more than 2 years now, ever since the war started. And by that, I mean dangerous, especially for Palestinian journalists. We got a reminder of that again this week with the funeral of 3 journalists who were killed in an Israeli airstrike. They were out following an Egyptian relief organization, trying to shoot what they were doing, how they were helping Palestinians, when one of the photojournalists, sent up a drone. They were in a car at the time. Well, soon after that drone went up, witnesses say that car was hit and destroyed by an Israeli airstrike. Israel says it considered the drone a threat to its troops, and it said that the drone was somehow connected to Hamas, although it didn't provide any proof. Many of those who were at the funeral, journalists themselves, are saying that it's become a dangerous place to the point where they're afraid every time they go out to do something on any given day. Things have calmed down in Gaza since the ceasefire took effect. That was a little more than 3 months ago, but the conflict has not ended. One hopeful sign for many Palestinians is that later this week, the Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt is finally supposed to open. Israel has been reluctant to allow it to open, even though that's part of the ceasefire agreement with U.S. President Donald Trump. Israel's been saying that until all the hostages, all of those who are alive, as well as the bodies of those who are dead, were returned to Israel, that crossing would not be open. Well, last night, the last of those bodies was found and it was returned. It was a 24-year-old policeman who had been kidnapped, taken into Gaza, and died afterwards. That means now that here in Israel, many people are looking at that as some kind of an end to the war. Of course, it hasn't ended for Palestinians, but they're looking at this as a sign of optimism, that they're no longer trapped. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Jerusalem.
India and the European Union have signed a major trade deal after years of negotiations. It's being seen as an important political message that trade agreements are better than tariffs. Salima Shivji has more from Mumbai.
After a flurry of last-minute negotiations, and on the heels of an extravagant Republic Day ceremony highlighting the close ties between European leaders and India, this is how both sides are describing the landmark trade agreement between the two.
Mother of all deals के रूप में कर रहे हैं.
Delivered the mother of all deals. We are creating a market of 2 billion people. And this is the tale of 2 giants. 2 giants who choose partnership in a true win-win fashion.
Ursula von der Leyen also pointedly saying that cooperation is how to deal with global challenges. Global challenge number 1 economically, an unpredictable United States administration led by Donald Trump, testing long-standing alliances and imposing stiff tariffs on many countries and threatening more. This deal is meant to counter the pain of erratic U.S. trade policy. Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, is saying this is the largest free trade agreement his country has ever signed. It represents about 25% of the world's GDP, encompasses 2 billion people, and opens up India's tightly guarded market by slashing tariffs across the board on European wine, for one, as well as cars from European countries, which will only see a 10% duty instead of what was as high as 110%. The agreement is expected to double EU exports to India in the next 6 years. It will also be easier for Indian goods like textiles, gems, and jewelry to enter Europe with no tariffs on them. And the deal is promising easier access for Indian high-tech professionals to work in European countries. Now, negotiations on the trade agreement have dragged on for nearly 2 decades on and off, but the talks had more urgency over the last 6 months as Trump's tariffs were implemented, and both European countries and India's Modi government domestically were under pressure to find a way forward.
This is New Delhi's way of sending a message to its own supporters and also to the world at large, that this is how we are going to approach. We are going to diversify. We're not going to be dependent on one huge country, even if it is the most powerful country in the world.
The deal will go through an extensive legal vet before it comes into effect, likely in about a year. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Mumbai.
Coming up, CBC's Johanna Wagstaff breaks down what led to a rare collision of 2 extreme weather phenomena, burying half of the continent under snow and ice. Stay tuned. A mammoth winter storm has locked much of North America in an Arctic air mass, covering cities and towns across Canada and the U.S. under snow and ice. The CBC's senior meteorologist Johanna Wagstaff looks at the rare collision of two systems to create this record-breaking event.
What happens when the polar vortex collides with an atmospheric river? Well, you don't just get a snowstorm, you get a system that affects more than 260 million people across the U.S. and Canada, stretching from the Mexican border to the Atlantic coast. This is the science of how a single storm just froze half of North America. To understand it, we have to look way up to the plumbing of the atmosphere, if you will. So normally the polar vortex is a tight circular fence of wind holding the coldest air at the pole. But this winter, the Arctic was much warmer than average. That weakened the vortex, allowing lobes of cold polar air to spill south, way south. At the same time, a powerful storm developed in the Pacific Ocean and tracked towards California, tapping into a massive atmospheric river, a literal fire hose of tropical moisture. When that warm, moist air hit the heavy frozen air already in place, it was shoved upwards, the lift needed for storm clouds. And that massive temperature contrast did the rest, providing the energy for a high-output snow machine. The National Weather Service wrote ahead of the storm, the Pineapple Express meets the Siberian Express. The scale is hard to wrap your head around. In the west, parts of New Mexico were buried under about 40 centimeters of snow. Then, as the storm tracked across the deep south, surface temperatures hovered near the freezing mark. Snow turned to ice, with accumulations topping 1.5 centimeters, snapping power lines and leaving over 1 million people without electricity. In southeast Arkansas, the storm dropped an incredible 18 centimeters of snow, so heavy roofs caved in. Farther north, that cold air was deeper, and the system unleashed the heaviest of the snow. A massive swath of 30 to 60 centimeters buried everything from Oklahoma to Maine. In Toronto, the storm brought an historic single-day snowfall total of 46 centimeters, with storm totals topping 56 centimeters. That pushes January 2026 snowfall to 88.2 centimeters for the city of Toronto, making it the snowiest January and the snowiest single month since records began in 1937. For context, that's more snow than Whistler has gotten in the past 2 weeks. For Atlantic Canada, this storm arrives at the end of a very long chain of events. But as the precipitation winds down, the real danger is just beginning. The polar air is now locked in place with record low temperatures all the way down to the Mexican border. If you have ice or snow on the ground right now, it's likely staying put well into February. And for the hundreds of thousands of people without power in the southern U.S., this is a life-threatening situation with homes and infrastructure not built to handle this cold. So for the foreseeable future, much of North America is locked into a pattern that's one for the record books in both scale and persistence.
The Weather Update is brought to you by the BC Cancer Foundation. The future of cancer care can be your legacy. Fuel innovation and life-saving treatments by leaving a gift in your will today.
We jump from one weather expert to another, aren't we blessed? Darius Madavi here with the BC Wide Weather Forecast. Half of North America frozen.
That's right.
We weren't so much a victim here, thankfully.
Yes,
but you think for all those people that were, yikes.
I know. Wasn't our half, thankfully. But that storm is actually still continuing, still lingering in parts of eastern Canada. This is Atlantic Canada, although it's mostly tapered off for the Maritimes. Although the Cape Breton's still getting some flurries. Newfoundland is still getting a fair amount of snowfall. In terms of the satellite imagery, it looks like it's mostly over the Avalon Peninsula, but we still have weather warnings in place for many of these areas. And as a result, places like the St. John's Airport have seen major disruptions. Many flights from that airport have been either delayed or canceled, including some heading right into tomorrow. So something to be aware of for folks who are traveling or have family who are traveling in that area. And there will be a fair amount more precipitation, especially for more northern areas of Newfoundland, especially the northern peninsula. Now, if we zoom into Ontario, also a fair amount of disruption here. You can see snow squalls coming off of Lake Huron up there. If we move over to Lake Ontario, though, also some snow squalls coming off the lake, especially this section here. This section of Highway 401, which is a major thoroughfare in Ontario, saw major disruptions because of snow squalls this morning, including a 50-car pileup on this highway. So a major disruption in that area as well. Fortunately, no injuries as a result of all those crashes, but definitely a lot of disruption, including overturned like transport trucks and all sorts of vehicles. Now, over here in BC, much different story. Unlike the cold air mass that is still sitting over the east, here we have warming temperatures over the next several days, significantly warming in some areas, most parts of Vancouver Island and the south coast, reaching the double digits again over the next few days. Meanwhile, for parts of the interior, reaching as high as 7 or 8 degrees by Friday. So pretty warm over the next few days, but also with that comes more precipitation, ushering in that warm air. A mild atmospheric river event happening for the central coast, although no flooding is expected at this point. Keeping a close eye on that because precipitation, as we looked at earlier in the show, will be heavy at times, especially on parts of the coast. Much more sporadic precipitation, meanwhile, in the interior. We're going to jump ahead to our conditions here, where we have a fair amount of precipitation, again, coming to the coast, but some more sunshine still coming to the interior as well. Be a while before we see the sun properly here on the coast, Dan. But some heavy rain is possible tomorrow afternoon. Be on the lookout. And then rainy, gusty conditions continue until the weekend.
Plus échange. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
A group offering dance classes to people living with Parkinson's is bringing its program to Vancouver. Stick around for this.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and this is your CBC Inbox.
CBC is a returning partner of the Push International Performing Arts Festival, January 22nd to February 8th. The festival features presentations of groundbreaking contemporary works of theater, dance, music, and multimedia. Tickets at pushfestival.ca. And never miss a special programming series, event, or contest. Subscribe to CBC's e-newsletter and keep connected with us.
A group offering dance lessons to people with Parkinson's disease is coming to BC.
CBC News spoke with one participant in a trial class hosted by Dancing with Parkinson's, and it will soon offer free once-weekly classes here in Vancouver.
It's fun, it's energetic, and it's creative.
I wanted to offer Dancing with Parkinson's classes to people who are living with Parkinson's disease, honestly with the mission to bring them out of isolation and into an inclusive artistic community.
Besides the exercise, it's an opportunity to talk to people about, well, I've been getting this symptom, or did you hear about this, or, you know, of sharing tips, as it were.
Most of the neurons in the brain are devoted to inhibitory function, slowing you down, stopping you from saying the mean thing or the rude remark. That's good. But sometimes, as in a case of Parkinson's disease, where you have trouble getting the dopamine go signal to move the way you want to, you need to ease off on the brakes. That is one of the tricks of the dance, is to take the brakes off for the right reason so that you can move and enjoy it and be a person who moves.
There are no patients in that room. Everyone is a dancer, everyone is an artist. And when you're an artist, you cannot get it wrong, because the way in which you express through your body or your face is completely unique to your own way of creativity.
Love that. Just keep moving.
It's good advice. Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. You can watch this newscast on CBC Gem, YouTube, and our website, cbc.ca/BC.
And we'll have your next local news at 11 o'clock, right after the National. See you then.